Now notice I was able to get through this quickly because I didn't have to do any strange positioning. When I moved one edge to another here, I knew all of these were going to be solved. That's just how it is with a Rubik 180. So when these two are out, just by putting these in, all the rest came in as well. So can the same thing happen here? So the way that I'm going to do this, because I can only do 180-degree turns because I don't want to get it out of the brick position, out of its native position, is I'm going to swap this orange with this red. So I'm going to move this over here and do 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U, 2F. So let's swap these two. It's the Rubik 180 technique. When I do that in the middle, it brings the swap out to here. So now I'm going to do it again. 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U, 2F. And now I'll move this back, and now this whole thing is placed. So now that I finally have these, it's just a matter of putting the edges. So you see that these two are lined up. So these two red and yellows belong here. Now notice something a little strange. With all these Rubik 180s, when I put one in, everything else was in. I didn't even have to look. So if two were in, everything was in. So by that same token, if two of these are in, two of these edges are in, the rest should be in. But they're not. As a matter of fact, as you can see, these two don't line up, these two don't line up, and these two don't line up. So let's start putting them in to see how many is left over with that. So this red and yellow belong here. Let's just swap these now. Move this over here, and it's an even layer version of that. 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U. And we can move this back. So you saw over here, because this is in an odd layer, we did an odd layer version, and now we're doing the even layer version over here. So what we have is, we have 1, 2, 3 pieces that are out. This cannot be solved by doing a Rubik 180. So here's my contention. What I did is I solved it as a domino, solved the brick as a domino to get it to its native form. Then I reduced it to a 180-degree scramble, hoping that I can solve it as a 180-degree, but I can't. Which means, because I reduced this to a 180-degree scramble, I now redefine this puzzle not as a domino, but as a Rubik 180. But because I can't solve it as a Rubik 180, I have what I would call a parity problem. A parity problem because I took a puzzle of one kind of a characteristic and reduced it to a puzzle of a different kind of a characteristic. And if I can't solve it as that, then that is a parity problem. So this is what I would call a true parity, or what I call a brick parity. The brick parity is when you reduce a brick from its shape-shifted form to its native cuboid form, try to solve it as a 180-degree solve, but find that you can't. There's no 180-degree algorithmic movements that I can do with this puzzle to solve it. So what I need to do is I need to do a parity algorithm that gets it out of this parity problem to where I can once again solve it using 180-degree algorithms. And what that parity solve does is it takes this piece, moves it to here, this moves back here, and this moves up here. That's the left-sided version. There's a right-sided version where this comes to here, this comes to here, and this comes to here, but this is the left-sided version. So the left-sided version, and now we're going to have to take it out of the Rubik 180 form. We do is start off. Now this is a fairly long algorithm, among the longest that I've had to memorize, but it's pretty easy flowing once you get to it. There's a lot of repeats in it. So you start off with the initial setup, which is a 2F. Just do a 2F, and then do a, if it's a left-sided version, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R. That's the first part. Then you do the bridge, so to speak, the middle part, by doing another 2F, and then a 2L where your parity was, 2L that lines that up, and then 2F. You then finish that, starting at the opposite end, doing 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U. You finish it again with a 2F, then this is your 2L, 2L. And it's done. That is the classic left-sided parity fix. There's a right-sided version of that too, which we'll get into. Now, that was your first cuboid parity. It was a cuboid parity because you started out as one type of puzzle, which was a brick, reduced it using domino strategy to a Rubik 180, tried to solve it as such, and ended up with that potential parity. So the next kind of cuboid with the next kind of potential parity is the floppy. Now, because this shape shifts in all directions, the technique is still the same as though it were a cube. Use cube strategies, because it's a shapeshifter in all directions, in order to get it back to its native shape, back to its native form. So I'm going to solve it like a 2x2. Top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve based on the corners. So here's a yellow and green. Where's another yellow and green to go on the other side. So I'm ignoring all the noise in the middle here. Here's the other yellow and green. So I just move this guy in, right over there. Now I'm going to look for the yellow and orange, which is right here. So this one I'm just going to position. If I can find it. I lost it. Oh, here it is. Okay. R-I-D-I-R-D. Simple as that. R-I-D-I-R-D. So there it is. And now the final yellow is over here. Again, cube strategy. So I've got these guys in and I'm ignoring all of this. I'm going to move this over here. Now the reason why I'm not going to get a brick, well, we'll get into that. So this is here, this is here. We're going to go ahead and R-I-D-I-R-D both of these up. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Keep going with this. This is up. Move this into position. And move that into position. So there's our 2x2 solve. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue the process of reduction. Now understand, I'm reducing this to a domino. But because the height is greater than the width, I now have this extra step in reduction. An extra step that I didn't have to do over here. I didn't have to do that because the width is not greater than the height. So as soon as I put everything in, it was already solved in its native position. So I've got to take a couple extra steps to reduce all of this down, and this is what I call the floppy reduction. Now, it really needs to be as simple as possible. What I'm going to do is, you can see that in these middle segments, some of them are up above where they're supposed to be, and some of them are not, like this is where it's supposed to be. What I want to do is I want to line up as many as I can that's up in the same plane and just move it down. So if I have 3 that are up, well, that's great, because then I can move 3 down and just end up with 1 up. But I'm bandaged over here because of this. So I've got to move the bottom in order to make it to where everything can move. So it would be nice if I can put on the bottom here, and this part and this part, coming out of line with the bottom, because then I can just move it in. So I'm going to move this over here. So now these guys, I've got 3 that's up. Now wouldn't it be perfect if I can take another one over here and have that move up? Now over here I can just go like this, kersplat, and now I just have 1 up. So it was as simple as that. Now could I work some magic and bring this to here? I'm going to move this down. And this guy can actually come over to here. Well, how am I going to do that without messing everything else up? Well, I'm going to do that by doing a corner swap. By doing a corner swap, these sections will swap with each other. So I'm going to do 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. Turn the whole puzzle 90 degrees counterclockwise. 2R, UI, 2R, U, 2R. This is turned back. So I'm already doing domino strategy. Now you see all these are lined up, and I simply move it down. So that's one possible scenario of how you can do that just by positioning. What if I have a situation like this? I end up with 2, and I can't really coordinate anything else. Well, what I can do then is I can actually move them opposite each other. Move them opposite each other like this, and inevitably if I end up running into 2, then I can swap these two down by doing the Red Bull algorithm. So by doing Red Bull, it'll flip-flop these and swap them down. That's 2R, 2B, 2U, L, 2 up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R. Okay, now after we've done that, we try to get everything back where it was before. I usually like to get it back to our cuboid solve. So basically, we've now reduced this to a cuboid, not a Rubik 180. The reason why it didn't have to be a 180 is because you don't have different pieces on all sides. And so because we have this down, we're just going to do cuboid solve strategies. So I'm going to start off with a swinging U technique to get the one top one over here. I'm just going to put the one remaining yellow rather, do a 2L to bring it up, swing it to the R, swing the U to the R, 2R, swing it to the L, 2L, swing it to the R, and 2R. All right, now we're just going to place the corners. Now, I call them corners, but I still say that these are specialized. Yeah, well, they are corners. You may think they're edges, and you can look at them as edges, but I look at them as specialized corners because the true corner, the true edge is hidden underneath, just like the true center here is hidden underneath. Turn it over here to a 2L, move it to the R position, take this 2R, move it to the L, 2L, to the R, 2R, and you're in. Okay, what I probably should do is I should line it up with the proper corners here. So this red is going to come to here, 2R, take it to the L, 2L, take it to the R, 2R, swing it to the L, 2L, swing it back, so that's in. And I keep going. Now I've got these two oranges, I can just place them as such. Swing both of them, like really a 2M to here, swing it to the L, 2L, swing it back, collectively swing these middles back, swing it here, and back. So we keep going. Here's a blue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take both of these out, like so. Turn, turn, turn. For me, this is the simplest way of doing floppies and ultimate shapeshifters, as I'll show you. And this is turned back. So now I've got these two greens, which can be placed collectively here. Turn, turn, turn. Swing it over here. Do my 2M, swing it to the L, 2L. All right, we're getting it. We have one more, I think. Nope, actually two more. 2L. Swing the U to the R. In this case, this is the R, so remember what layer we're dealing with. 2R, swing it to the L, 2L, swing it here, and swing it back. And now one more, 2L, swing it to the R, 2R, swing it to the L, 2L, swing it to the R, and 2R. Okay, so the top is done, and now we just do the bottom here. So we're still doing cuboid techniques, cuboid style. Because these are considered to be corners right now, I'm going to find two corners that are in, and I see this is in, and this is in. Well, this is a problem. We did not have that with any of these. You don't get two corners in. You don't get two corners in and two corners out. So this is a situation that's a little bit of a problem. Now, with the brick parity, notice we had two that were in, and we had 1, 2, 3 that were out. Well, this is a kind of parity that you can't solve as a domino. You can't solve it because if you were to take this and move it to here and do a corner swap, this would come here, this would come here, and then these two would flip-flop. So what you'd always end up with is two corners that are in, two corner sets that are in, so you'd always chase your tail. So because I reduced this to a domino, tried to solve it as a domino and can't solve it as a domino, this is also a parity. So the brick parity is solving it as a domino to a Rubik 180 and not able to solve it as such. That's a brick parity. This is a floppy parity. A floppy parity is simply when you take a floppy, reduce it to a domino, try to solve it as a domino, and find that you can't. And when you can't, you now can't look at this as a domino anymore. You've got to get it back into floppy form, back into its shape-shifted form the way that you couldn't do with a domino, hence the floppy parity. The way to recognize a floppy parity is if you just have two corners that are out. In this case, these two that are out. In this case, it's these two. If it's three that's out, then it's a brick parity. If it's two, then it's a floppy parity. The way to deal with this is to flip-flop these. You've got to get these two edge areas opposite each other. So I'm going to do an adjacent edge swap to do that. 2R, U, 2R, U, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. So now these two are opposite. The way that you fix this is you've got to start doing flip-flopping, and unfortunately you have to take it out of its domino form. The way to do this is go ahead and move this down. Now the way that I'm going to move this down is I'm actually going to move it here because I'm going to start moving it the way that I would its base cube, its base puzzle, which is a 2x2. 2x2s are moved like this. So I'm going to move it down like this. Not this, but based upon its 2x2 structure like this. So we're going to do one red bull to flip-flop these. They're going to be flip-flopped and facing up. So do one red bull. 2R, 2B, 2U, L. 2 up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R. Okay, now that we've done that, we're out of our domino form. We're going to immediately do a 2L to move this plane down. 2L. Now, why did I do that? Well, I did that because I took an orange and I bumped this orange out of the way. I've got an orange down and a blue up. Here, I have an orange up and a blue down. By doing another red bull and flip-flopping these, I'm going to have two oranges up and two blues down. That's what I want. So do a 2L and do another quick red bull. 2R, 2B, 2U, L, 2 up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R. Now that I have that, I do another 2L, and as you can see, these two are now coordinated, and these two are coordinated. If you want, you can move the 2B back at this point, do a red bull to bring this down. 2R, 2B, 2U, L, 2 up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R, and as you can see, the parity is taken out. Now, you're probably thinking, ugh, 3 Red Bull algorithms? Really? Couldn't there be an easier way? For these versions, for the lower layers, yeah, there could be a quicker way. But what I'm telling you is that as you start to solve higher layered cuboids, this technique is probably going to be the most efficient. And what I'm looking for is a strategy that you can do with any cuboids of any layer. So this is the one that I've been using because ultimately, as you go to 4 by 6, 6 by 6 by 8, this technique to deal with this kind of parity is simply going to be probably among the easier ones. So now I'm going to look at these collectively as edges, continue my cuboid solve by doing edge swaps. Opposite edge swap. 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U. Adjacent edge swap. 2RU, 2RU, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2RU, 2R, UI, 2R, and we finish with another adjacent edge swap. U, 2R, U, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, and done.